Hello everyone. Everybody has been waiting for this day. Some with looking really ahead to it, others with second opinions and preservations, I should say. The inauguration of President Trump tomorrow, which is one of the few days which is set in stone in the American Constitution. January the 20th, every 4 years, is the day when the new administration is sworn in. And there is some really amazing synchronicity there with astrology. It's always happens at 12 noon. The 27th degree or close is in midheaven, which is where the American nations Pluto is. Let me just pull that up. I had it here before. Wanted to show you this. You see here, this is the Pluto in the American nations chart, the Declaration of Independence. So it is about power. Very simple, and naturally the Sun always in that area of the first or degree of Aquarius or the last of Capricorn. So this is also every time the same. Now, aside from that, naturally everything changes all the time. And just to start with, there has been actually also quite some fear out there. There were some rumors that some really big negative event was planned for that day at the same time to kind of throw things off. My take on this is, whereas the energies are challenging to some degree and quite difficult in my words, and I will get to that why, the positive news is the moon at the time of the inauguration at 12 noon will be at 1831 in Libra. That is very, very close to where President Trump has his Jupiter. So for that reason alone, I'm expecting it will go rather smoothly as a positive surprise to many who have been fearing the worst, which could happen. Some of it might have been prevented already. They chose definitely the right thing to go indoors to make it more secure after all these attempts on his life. This is truly understandable. Now let's look at the chart in more detail. And I go deeper this time than I ever do in astrological chart, because this is a critical moment. It really lays the foundation for what's to come in the next 4 years, gives the prospects of what potentials there are for the American nation and the world at large. As we know, the American nation is at the helm of evolution in a way of where we're going. So, first of all, it's a waning half moon. Actually, the moon is just getting there, just a few degrees away. Waning half moons is the crisis in thinking. It is when we come to that place where we have gone through the whole story and starting to see where things are not adding up and where we have to change certain settings, certain parameters to make things work in a better way, to get ready for an upgrade, so to say. That is the time of the waning moon. Also, the moon is very, very close to its farthest spot in the 28-day cycle at its apogee, which is here in astrology resembled by the black moon, which is to be understood as the deepest trench in the ocean. The moon naturally related to emotions and all the perceptions, good and bad, everything kind of which goes up and down very strongly, like the ocean tides. The moon also is connected to our more primal experience of reality from our guts. The moon also is particularly in a collective chart showing the people, the masses, how they move up and down, how they get agitated or more into a peaceful mode. The moon in Libra is rather a peaceful energy of keeping things civilized, I would say. And the closeness to the black moon is actually a really good sign. It is guiding us to look and perceive what shadows there are. So the black moon is the collective shadow, the blind spot. So when the moon is in an aspect with that place, it usually shows this things can't be avoided any longer, and that is definitely one of the big signatures of this chart. Just see the opposition to Chiron, most exact, also to Mercury and Pallas, and Mars by a little bit of a greater orb. Bienor here, to Bienor is the strong man, the strong-willed free spirit who is ready to announce that intention of doing one's own thing. So this is a pretty radical grand square we have here, with naturally the moon at its handle here in house 6, which is all about health, well-being, reorganization, getting on top of what has to be done. Very much Virgo energy. That is, it is actually this axis from the 6th to the 12th house which is most pronounced, as it has an interception. Means it's kind of these signs act as pressure cookers. The energy is building up within, and then once the pressure has reached its necessary strength, then it will release. With Chiron and Aries in here coming to a close meeting in a few weeks, but already within close orb. This is very sharp energy of pronouncing what is wrong, giving it a very clear name. So this grand square by itself is super explosive in many ways, also with Mercury and Pallas here. Yes, explosive, maybe not quite the best word, because we have this basically peaceful and civilized energy of the moon in Libra, which is definitely a saving grace in many ways. But it definitely challenges to look closer, to analyze things, to look at patterns, to see the structures which are behind the scene, holding things in place. And Chiron in that same degree where it was a year ago, particularly on the solar eclipse of April the 8th, that was the degree where the Sun, Moon and Chiron had their very, very close conjunction. So that energy is harvested now, brought more into focus. As you know, eclipses, they have impact over many, many years. Actually, it's an 18-year cycle. So for 18 years, every eclipse somewhat is active. It's the big spokes of the evolutionary wheel. Very clear and outstanding feature of this chart is the Sun and Pluto and the part of fortune here, right in the at the 10th house, together with Mercury and Pallas, the most elevated planets. Actually, just one day later, they will have their exact conjunction to the Sun, will be exactly aligned with Pluto. We will look at this chart in a minute, as this is kind of the culmination of this energy. Now, what is Sun in Pluto meaning? It is the next level up of change, of mutation, of moving towards a new societal ideal, even, you could say. Pluto in Aquarius is in that sign of revamping the whole societal structures, bringing in question all the hierarchies and kind of rusted, and yeah, you get it all, which is of the old in a way. Interesting, as you probably know, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius 247 years ago. That is the time it takes for Pluto to go once around the zodiac. So if we go 247 years ago, it brings us to about 1777, 1778, and then all the way into the early years of the 18th century, or of the 19th century, I should say, till about 1803. So through the French Revolution, all that tumultuous times, Pluto was in Aquarius. The same now between 2020 and 2043, I guess. So this is actually the second conjunction the Sun has with Pluto in Aquarius. The last one was in January 2024, which was really the beginning of that new direction that was set in terms of evolutionary direction for the whole society. So, and then the part of fortune here, this is actually a really wonderful sign. It shows that, again, this is the main focus we will see of this new administration. They are all about turning things over in hopefully a much better direction. I'm actually quite convinced that is where we're going. It won't go in a straight line. It's a very challenging chart to start with, as I already mentioned, that grand square here, which is definitely showing that there will be many unexpected challenges and roadblocks arriving. We can definitely count on that. But overall, it's just shaking things up, as we definitely all know, with our main player, Mr. Donald Trump, being at the helm of this whole adventure. So Pluto also in the 10th house here with the Sun. It is about the changes on the bigger scale, which we can count on. Then, yeah, I wrote here, challenging, difficult. Certainly it can be an uphill battle, though huge potentials. Interesting is also this conjunction of Ceres, the earth goddess, which is all about getting back in balance with nature, and Chariklo, the wife of Chiron, also a centaur planet. Compassion, holding hands, the midwife in a way, helping us to get from A to B, giving us some inner guidance that is all available these days with all these many wonderful people who provide services of that sort, channeling and whatnot, you name it. Spiritual guidance is definitely around if we are looking out for it. Comes in many forms, in many shapes, in many colors. So another feature which really stands out in this chart is the Venus-Saturn conjunction, which actually was exact just a day ago. And it so happened that in the heliocentric perspective, actually a couple hours before Venus and Saturn had their exact geocentric alignment, there was a heliocentric square. This is really rare that planets make strong aspects in the geocentric perspective and the heliocentric perspective at once, and this is extreme within 2 hours. So this stands out. So what is Venus and Saturn representing when they stand together? It is love with responsibility, compassion with an edge, with saying this is the way it should be, this has to be done in order to keep things in balance. It is an orderly way of authority, but very heart-centered and compassionate, as Venus is in Pisces, in a very basic way. Interesting also that exact conjunction with Nessus, which is the Centaur planet representing the pathological energies on this planet. So this is a very interesting connection, Venus and Nessus here. It shows that yes, compassion is necessary. We can transform these lower frequencies. We don't have to act in the old ways like the Jewish god of revenge. That is actually, if you really look at it, the one of the most unhelpful ways to deal with difficulties. It is not about blame, it is about taking responsibility, and we all are connected, we all are in the same boat. So compassion and resolution is what offers itself here in a very big way. So in this context, I strongly speak out against death penalty on all levels. Killing another human being is the biggest crime there is. We shouldn't resort to that. We can do many other ways of dealing with criminals of the highest rank. But death penalty definitely goes against that basic new approach we should come from of compassion and love. And love doesn't mean you just allow things to be wrong. No, it has to be still the Saturnian hand of taking the right action, but in a reasonable way, in a humane way. The same kind of energy comes in also with the North Node now in Pisces, together with Neptune. It is actually Neptune's final few months here in Pisces, together with the node. So Neptune also speaks of union, of oneness, of everything is connected with everything else. And to rise to a higher frequency band, that is what is necessary to see things in a new way, to give them to literally not so much rewrite history, but redefine our personal history, and as in the same way also the collective history. So yes, these so-called bad, terrible things, yes, they did happen, but we have to take responsibility in a way of being there as creators as well. It's not that we should divide ourselves. It is really moving towards that merger of all timelines, of all of the different realities into oneness, into a true inner understanding, and for that sense all those higher senses then will be activated, which most people think they're paranormal, but clairsentience, clairvoyance, omniscience, all of that is possible within without too much effort, within that Neptunian frequency of perceiving a much greater band of reality than we are usually used to. Jupiter here at the second house cusp. This is beautiful. This is actually the house of possessions, of manifestations in the physical plane, of money and wealth. So this kind of shows that yes, there is a turnaround to much more abundance starting in America, naturally. Many people are afraid of all these tariffs which Mr. Trump has announced. I think many of these extreme points will be definitely mellowed down quite a bit. I mean, he has to understand that yes, we live in this one world too. Everybody has to be equally happy and balanced and wealthy. You can't just favor one nation above all others. That is definitely something which has to come into a temperance, one could say. This will happen, I'm sure. There's a saying that the meal never is eaten as hot as it is cooked, along that line. The third house cusp is interesting too. That is, if we use the Sabian symbols, this is the train wreck degree. This is the image the clairvoyant was given. A car hit by a train on a railway crossing. So this is really derailing of our thinking, of the collective thinking in the nation. Actually, yes, I should say that. I guess for those of you who are a bit new, this third house is Mercury's realm, the house of perception, of communication, of sharing ideas, of coming to an understanding what this reality is all about. Also, the retrograde Mars in here is going in that same direction of unwinding, of demolition in some way. First, before we can build, we have to take down what is wrong. All that also links into this, which I mentioned already, that T-square here of Chiron, Moon, Black Moon and Mercury Palace. So it is definitely an energy of reframing, remodeling the collective thought process. Naturally, also, if you think of the fake media who trick people to have wrong ideas and concepts about reality, all of that will change in these next 4 years. Yes, we have to allow for these challenges to play themselves out to get things back to a better place. Now, I said it is a basically quite charged, difficult energy, particularly in the Washington DC area. So this is the chart for when the moon will be exactly at its farthest from Earth in its 28-day cycle. That is actually, you see, pretty much exactly 12 hours later, 12 hours after the inauguration, which is at 12 noon, and you see the black moon is exactly aligned with the ascendant in Washington. which is the most powerful point in any chart. So it is really this really shows that it's boiling. It's not really an easy energy to be around. There is all this collective tension. What is coming out of that? And I guess rarely has the polarity been so extreme as it is right now. And naturally, this has all been built up by the powers we just mentioned. The exact square the moon has at the time with Mars and Eris, this is explosive. This is definitely the explosive chart. That's 12 hours later at midnight, just 5 minutes prior to the 21st of January. And then on the 21st, then we have that Sun-Pluto conjunction again in Washington. That comes exactly onto the ascendant. Yet another indication that whatever happens in that place on our planet in that time has great repercussions of changing things into a new path. Uranus at the 4th house cusp. I mean, this chart is in itself speaking volumes. Juno here up high in the 10th house, hugging the midheaven, which is where consciousness is focused at, what we are aiming toward achieving. That's the direction the tree grows into the heavens, so to say. Juno again is teamwork, partnership, healthy competition, I would call it too, helping one another to become more strong, sparring partners, good teams, all of that. So with Uranus here, yes, it's also asking us to work together in a very innovative and new ways, find out what is possible. But definitely it shows that in this movement toward a rewrite of societal structures, it is the small cells of partnership, family, friends, who are at the root of these wonderful changes we're heading toward. And they will be very wonderful and good in the end. Right now, yes, the tensions are high, but we have to allow for that. This is the pressure which forges us, which builds the foundations towards something much more light-hearted. Right now it is in heavy-duty mode and working itself through large obstacles and roadblocks. That is the first level here we are dealing with. Interesting that in this chart again there is Chariklo and Ceres this time here. Chariklo 1638, Ceres 1653, and the equatorial ascendant is here. So that means whatever manifests out of this shift in, or this, I would say this recharge of the solar energy with plutonic forces, that's what basically the conjunction is of whenever the sun pulls up to a planet, the consciousness gets recharged with that planet's energy. So whatever comes out of it will have global repercussions. That is what the equatorial ascendant is. That is how this moment's energy seeds itself all over the planet. I mentioned that before. It is that Earth Goddess energy together with compassion and midwifery, holding hands, being there for one another in Aquarius. Also the Aquarius rising here again, I mean, it can't be overlooked. This is the main theme of what is coming. Now let's have a peek at Mr. Trump's chart, how this all fits in with the greater picture, how he, the role he's here meant to play. And I just want to point out a few alignments which are very particular. The first is his birth chart shows also this Venus-Saturn conjunction, very prominent in the 11th house. And that is where Mars by transit is right now, as you can see. If you just go back one more time here, 2404, and that is exactly between his Saturn and his Venus. So he's the enactor, called in as an enactor, in a way you could say, of that kind of, it's like a parent, showing us the boundaries. That's how far we should go with the responsibilities we should take on ourselves. So yes, he's a strong personality, as we all know. He has his bright sides, but he certainly has also his shadow sides. He's a human being. We should definitely acknowledge that. We have to rise above that personalization of leadership. We have to see that yes, they are human beings, they have their weaknesses, their strengths, and we should, as with every human being, that's my approach, to focus on the positive, on what really helps, and nurture that, and then this will manifest itself even in a bigger way. So for all those of you who are still kind of on the fence about him, he definitely is the right man for this time. There's no question, otherwise he wouldn't have been elected. That in itself shows that his time is, his mission is valid, and he is an important player in this collective evolutionary process. Uranus by transit is right here up on his 10th house cusp. Again, I just want to quickly go back, show you this. You see 2317 at the time here. And so it is just going forth and back around his focus, consciousness focus of what is important in his mind right now. Uranus naturally is about revolution, about turning things around and bringing in new ideas, new aspects of reality. And in his birth chart, as you see, he has that Uranian tint, if you want. Yes, he's definitely an eccentric in many ways. That's what Uranus also gives. Colorful, brilliant in many ways, unusual, wild, crazy, you could call it, with the node here too. He's definitely a book with 1,000 seals, you could say, has many different sub-personalities. AW197 is here, in here too, which is the art of war, the ability to turn every disadvantage into an advantage, I guess, which he has proven in multiple ways. Radamanthus is here too in this big stellium, which is a sense for justice and truth and higher principles, which he, in my opinion, has upheld to quite a bit. Yes, he has been pushed into corners, and but I mean, just think back before 2016, before he first started running for president, he was liked on all channels. He had interviews on ABC, on NBC, on you name it, CNN. They all were portraying him as a wonderful example of American entrepreneurship. It all changed pretty much overnight. He was given all these adjectives of you name it. I don't want to go there, but much of the image which a big part of population still has of him is definitely been proposed and repeated hundreds and hundreds of times. If you tell a lie too many times, people start believing it. That's kind of along the line. I see it, that's my personal opinion. Leo rising, naturally, that gives him that kind of a little bit of a pushy character with Mars there too. He likes to be the boss, absolutely, 100%. Give him that as a, yeah, that's just his personality. The royal star Regulus is here too, exactly on his ascendant, which is the brightest star close to the sun's path, the main star in the constellation Leo, the heart of the lion, it's also called. So he definitely represents that. He is that lion's heart in many ways. Then Jupiter, right, Jupiter in by transit right now, you see, is at in the 12th degree of Gemini. Here, still moving backward till February the 4th. That's when it will station and then start moving forward again. And in his chart, in Mr. Trump's chart, Jupiter then will move and activate all these many planets of his Gemini stellium most strongly between mid-April and mid-May. So expect a big change in public perception of his role, of his work, of his accomplishments in these times between mid-April and mid-May. There might be really a big change in public opinion, which is nice. I guess he deserves it. He is definitely loving America. That's what I'm getting. He's in that notion of service, of being the big daddy, as we mentioned before, of taking charge and of giving the nation a new direction, hopefully making things better for everyone. So I also did here the midpoint chart between Mr. Trump and the inauguration, kind of showing how his perception is of what feels to be, what needs to be done, how he fits best in, how he uses these energies of our present time in and to move forward with. And again, this is just how the universe plays. This is not so much his choice, this is just what has been given to him to work with, you could say. The Sag rising is really nice. That's Jupiter's energy again. Jupiter, which is really an important planet in his personal chart, in his second house, naturally, as being a human being who has managed to preserve great wealth. You see here, this is all in his second chart. Jupiter here at 17 being the one which leads the whole group. Jupiter is in a trine with the Sun here in this midpoint chart and in sextile with the ascendant. That in itself shows that he will definitely much more enjoy this 4-year term than he did the first time. This shows that he's going to become much more popular and loved and respected for the change he is bringing. I guess people are ready for him now. Mercury pretty exactly on his personal Jupiter, which is at 17 degrees Libra. Then we have this Venus-Mars conjunction, which speaks for a new creation cycle to be initiated, which I guess is obvious with him taking power, that he is able to really pull out something totally fresh and present it in a new way and use all the potentials there are, all these many wonderful people he has now found on his team to be with him. Much a better team than he had 4 years ago. Yes, there still might be a few rotten eggs in there, and the wonderful thing is that him and naturally RFK Jr., who, as I said already back in August when they both united, when RFK was joining Mr. Trump's team, that was a radical decision, a wonderful move, and also that he was accepted into the tribe. And hopefully RFK gets the nomination for what he's wanting to accomplish. That would be really the best we can wish for at this point. I'm still a little bit on the fence about expecting this to really fall in place. There are definitely challenges here too. You see with Chiron here in the 7th house and Uranus in the 1st. Particularly this Chiron in the 7th house indicates that yes, there is still some work to be done before that the path gets more on because some of the hindrances are dealt with. This is definitely a more challenging aspect, but nevertheless it is creative. It brings forward what has to be worked on, particularly with Uranus in the 1st house. Again, remember, he's a Uranian character. He comes in with many surprises and new ideas, and naturally they will be challenged to some degree. This is a necessary forth and back discourse, as long as it stays civilized and with the intention of holding up the truth and nothing but the truth. Hopefully that's where we are going to. I'm having high hopes in that sense. Then there's also TX300, the one which really came into my understanding as a very interesting character during the trucker convoy in Canada. Was one of the main players there, that little Kuiper belt object, which still has not received a name. That's still this original designation, was discovered in 2002 with the index number TX300. It is that bold, big energy, the loud mouth, and I guess again that matches Mr. Trump very well. So a voice that is heard, which nobody can really ignore. Now let's move one level up. This is a little bonus here I would like to add. First I want to point out the axis here of this midpoint chart, 25th degree of Virgo versus the 25th degree of Pisces, which are the hexagrams 6 and 36. If you overlay the 64 hexagrams, if you want to get the full list of overlay, go to the description of the video, where you find all the links as usual with what I'm presenting, and you can do some further research, use those insights to look at your chart. Also, I suggest if you want to take screenshots of the charts I'm showing you, please just stop the video and do that, and you can look at them at your own pace. So anyway, conflict and darkening of the light. This is a very powerful axis in the zodiac of bringing things to an ending. Naturally, the last segment here of Pisces, before we move on into Aries, is that kind of the deepest of the cellar, you could say. We're moving down into going to the really bottom in many ways of what is underneath, behind, and hidden. Darkening of the light. Yes, this is the ultimate challenge in a way. And hexagram 6 has the balancing principle. Conflict, we have to face conflict and phrase things out, give them a name, and conflict is the friction which is necessary for progress. So that's kind of the context. Now, based on this pronounced axis, I move into new territory with you now, at least for those who are not familiar with the human design system. This is Trump's incarnation chart, which is, according to the transmission of the human design system, which is a very particular way of applying astrology in a whole new, much broader way. This is 88 degrees of the sun's motion before birth. This is called the human design. 88 degrees of the sun's motion, in our perspective naturally, or if you go by its real expression, if you want, as the sun is in the center, the earth moves around it, so it's the earth's actually moving 88 degrees on its path around the sun, which is anywhere between 86 to 92 days. That is the time between incarnating and being born. Incarnating meaning the moment when the soul, which has been hovering around mom and dad during conception and for the whole first 6 months of pregnancy, where the body is not really there yet, so where could you really be, where could you log into? So that house first has to be built to some degree. That is the whole teaching of the human design system. And then comes the moment when you all of a sudden are swirled into, and you find yourself in this little body, in this tiny little body, getting ready for birth. This is the moment of incarnation. This is a most powerful, important point, as much important as your birth chart. I not just look at the human design diagram when I give readings. I always look at this chart. This is most powerful encryption, if you want, of the hidden potentials of a human being. Now, why am I getting to show you this? You see, there's again the 25th degree of Virgo versus the 25th degree of Pisces, with the sun and earth being in this polarity. Naturally, this is the sun's and the earth's position always are the most important in any astrological chart. This is what we usually know of ourselves. I'm a Pisces, I'm a Virgo, whatever. And so Mr. Trump, this is his unconscious powers which he brought into this world. So he can access levels of his potentials which he is not even aware of yet during these coming 4 years, and it will be highly important that he has this. He is really the man of the hour, particularly looking forward or ahead, I should say, not so much forward, but definitely ahead to that big moment in time. We are navigating toward the end of May, 28th of May 2025, which I pointed out in my last video as a critical date overall for Earth's history in a very, very big way, as this is the moment when which I see many timelines coming together in a way where there will be big changes on that day, around that day. We do not know exactly that yet, but on that day there will be a heliocentric Mars-Saturn opposition, exactly in that degree. That's why I'm getting to this. And if we look at the geometry from Earth's perspective in that exact same moment, then we see that this is where the nodal axis is, the north node coinciding with the heliocentric position of Saturn, the south node with the heliocentric position of Mars. And in the geocentric perspective, also Saturn is perfectly at the apex together with Neptune, which speaks for a whole new creation cycle to be started. And this is the degree where Mars just had its closest approach to Earth, I should say. That was its just a few days ago, on the 16th of January. Mars was in the 27th degree of Cancer. Earth was on the Sun was on the other side together. Anyway, you get the picture. This is a most outstanding, powerful moment which we are having ahead of us. I'm getting deeper into this. Please go back to the video I just recorded a few days ago, which gives you the whole story, why I emphasize this moment so much. And I will build on this story for the next few videos, as it's all about those predictions of what is to be expected this year, particularly what we have been waiting for so long already, those huge birth changes which are necessary in many ways to move forward into a whole new era. Thank you for being here and listening. I'm super excited of being here in this body, in this time, in this crazy time, you could say, in many ways, but also most rich in potentials. Please focus on the potentials. Please be creative, use your energy in positive ways, and spread your positive vibes of hope and broad vision into a whole new universe, a whole new manifestation cycle. Thank you so much for being here. Love you all. Bye bye.